Hi you two. This is going to be a quick video over finding slope from a table. Yesterday with Christian I worked on finding slope from a graph, and we talked about finding two nice points, drawing in the slope triangle, and then writing a fraction, rise over run, the change in y over the change in x, and then simplifying our answer. On a table it's going to be the same idea. The important thing to know about a table is that it's always going to go in order x and y. So in this case, time is x, distance is y. So when I say in order, I mean in alphabetical order for x and y. And so in a minute here, when I talk about how to write the ratio, it's going to be important that you know which one is the x and which one is the y variable in this situation. So in this situation in the table, I'm thinking as the time is going by, the distance in miles is getting bigger. So one thing to notice is, step one, is the table going up or down in x and y. So we need to know if the x is going up and the y is also going up, then it's a positive slope. If both are increasing at the same time, then it's a positive slope. And same thing, if both are decreasing at the same time. Let's say that my table instead said, and you don't need to write this one down, but let me just give you an example. Let's say my table said 90, 60, 30, and then 870, 580, 290. That would be the same thing as this table down here. The x's are going down, the y's are going down. That's still going to be a positive slope, because if you read the table backwards, as the x's are getting bigger, so are the y's. If it's the opposite way, so if the y's are going down while the x's are going up, if they're going in opposite directions, then our slope is negative. So opposite directions equal a negative slope. So this example has a positive slope, but you will have some on your practice today that have a negative slope. Step two is actually to calculate or find the change between x and y values. So what I mean by that is the x should be increasing from one x number to the next x number by the same. So from 30 to 60 and from 60 to 90, all numbers in my x column add 30. They're increasing by 30 each time. And then in my y column, or my y row, from one number to the next, I can't immediately calculate what 290 to 580 is. So a trick to know how far the distance is from 290 up to 580, I do know it's adding because the numbers are getting bigger. The trick to figuring that out is to use subtraction. So I'll subtract 580 minus 290. And that'll give me 290. So it should be adding 290, and I would double check with my calculator if I was doing this. I'd double check that 870 minus 580 is also 290. It should be, as long as this is linear, it should be going the same each way. And then step three, you write your slope as the change in y over the change in x. So this is a new notation you might not have seen before. That triangle just means it's delta, and that does mean just change. So change in y over change in x. So in other words, I have to find the change in y. So this is where it comes into play, knowing which one is the x and which one is the y. So like I said, it's going to go in alphabetical order. The top one will be x, the bottom one will be y. Or if my table was side to side, x would be on the left, y would be on the right. And I have to write my fraction upside down from what the table gives me. So I have to actually put the y, I have to actually put the y value adding 290 on top of the fraction for slope. I divide that, the change in y, by the change in x. So I divide 290 by 30. And then always simplify our fraction if we can. One trick is that if you ever have zeros, you can cancel them out with the same number of zeros. So one zero can cancel out another zero. So actually I could easily simplify this to 29/3. That's just like dividing by 10 on each one. And I can't simplify that anymore. And something that Christian and I talked about yesterday was leaving our answers as an improper fraction in slope is okay. So what this means is for every 29 miles, the time changes by 3 minutes. So the y is time and the x is, or the y is distance, the x is time. And so since this number is our change in y and this number is our change in x, I know that every 3 minutes that go by, there are 29 more miles traveled. All right, I have left you a whole bunch of practice to continue practicing with simplifying fractions, finding the slope from a graph, and finding a slope from the table. My direction would be to get as much of that done as you can today, and make sure that you do at least practice some from each section. And if we don't have time for the whole thing, that's fine, but do leave some of the work or make sure you do some work from each section. So then next time we come back to it, we can practice a couple of the fractions, a couple of the graphs, and a couple of the tables.